Beneath the streets we walk, the fields we till, and the buildings we occupy lie the echoes of human ambition, the fingerprint of empires that shaped continents, of colonies that rose and fell, of factories that changed the rhythm of life forever. This is historical archaeology, the study of our past after the medieval age, from the grandeur of empires to the smokestacks of industrialization, a story written not in books alone, but in the earth beneath our feet. From the 16th to the 18th centuries, empires stretched across oceans. Trade, conquest, and ambition fueled exploration, leaving behind not just maps, but entire layers of human existence buried beneath the soil. In London, excavations of the old port reveal thousands of artifacts daily. Coins minted centuries ago, fragments of imported goods, and even discarded tools paint a vivid portrait of life in bustling trade cities. Across continents, the same patterns emerge. Empires built, exploited, and eventually abandoned. Every brick, every shard tells a story of human ambition, of culture, commerce, and conquest. Colonialism left scars and legacies, not just on maps, but in soil and architecture and in artifacts. Archaeologists uncover the remnants of forts, mission schools, and warehouses. Each tells a tale of cultural encounters, sometimes violent, often transformative. Records unearthed here reveal trade networks spanning the globe, from the Indies to the Americas. A single colony can impact the lives of millions. In South America, remnants of colonial mines show that labor demands reshaped entire ecosystems and societies. Historical archaeology forces us to confront our past, the human cost of progress, the clash of cultures, and the resilience of communities caught in the tides of empire. By the 18th and 19th centuries, a new force reshaped the world: industry. The Industrial Revolution ignited a fire of innovation, but also a hardship. By the 18th and 19th centuries, a new force reshaped the world: industry. The Industrial Revolution ignited a fire of innovation, but also a hardship. Excavations of textile mills in Manchester revealed tens of thousands of lost objects, from workers' shoes to iron machinery parts. Each artifact tells a story of sweat, ambition, and the dawn of the modern age. The numbers are staggering. Over 1 million laborers worked in British coal mines alone by 1850. Historical archaeology captures not just the tools they used, but the lives they led, the risks they endured, and the communities they built. Through the soil, through the artifacts, through the remnants of our built world, historical archaeology reveals a tapestry of human progress and human struggle. Every empire, every colony, every factory site, a mirror reflecting our past, and perhaps our future. As we unearth these remnants, we are reminded that history is not a distant story. It is alive, waiting for us to listen, to learn, to understand, and to carry forward the lessons of ingenuity, resilience, and responsibility. From empires to industry, from ambition to innovation, our past whispers beneath the earth. Historical archaeology does more than uncover artifacts. It uncovers the soul of humanity. And as we dig deeper, we discover not just where we came from, but who we can become. Beneath the streets we walk, beneath the buildings we enter daily, lie traces of a world that existed centuries before our time. These are not just random pieces of stone or fragments of pottery. They are the echoes of human life after the medieval period, a period when societies were growing, empires were stretching their reach, and communities were building the foundations of the modern world. Historical archaeology invites us to step into this buried world, to read the stories written not in books, but in the very ground beneath us. Imagine walking through an old city in Europe. The cobblestones beneath your feet might seem ordinary, yet beneath them lie layers of history. Each layer tells a different story. A market bustling with merchants trading exotic goods from across the seas, a workshop where craftsmen molded metal and wood into tools and ornaments, or the home of a family whose lives were shaped by the rise and fall of the empire around them. Archaeologists uncover these layers with patience and precision, brushing away centuries of soil to reveal fragments of the past. And in these fragments, we find the rhythms of daily life, the ambitions of communities, and the silent testimony of human perseverance. Post-medieval society was a world in motion. Cities expanded, trade networks connected continents, and technology began to change the way people lived. Ports and marketplaces became centers of exchange, not just of goods, but of ideas, cultures, and beliefs. In London, excavations near old docks have revealed thousands of artifacts, from coins stamped centuries ago to fragments of imported porcelain and glass. Each artifact provides a window into lives that have long passed, showing us how interconnected the world had already become. Across the Atlantic, colonial settlements in North America hold similar evidence. Foundations of houses, wells, and marketplaces reveal how people adapted to new environments, traded with neighbors, and built communities from the ground up. The stories uncovered by historical archaeology are not limited to the wealthy or powerful. They include the experiences of everyday people whose lives were intertwined with the larger forces of history. In cities and villages, laborers, artisans, and merchants left their marks in subtle ways. A tool discarded in a workshop, a fragment of a cooking pot, a worn shoe buried under layers of earth. These objects tell us about survival, creativity, and resilience. They remind us that history is not just a story of rulers and armies, but of ordinary people navigating extraordinary changes. One of the most fascinating aspects of post-medieval archaeology is seeing the transformation of landscapes. Farmlands, forests, and rivers were shaped by human activity, sometimes slowly over centuries, sometimes abruptly through the demands of trade and expansion. Archaeologists studying these areas find evidence of irrigation systems, bridges, roads, and canals. Innovations that reveal both ingenuity and necessity. The patterns of settlements show how societies organized themselves, managed resources, and connected with distant regions. In some places, old roads still align with modern highways, carrying traces of ancient commerce into the present. Historical archaeology also opens a window into the cultural and spiritual life of post-medieval societies. Churches, monasteries, and community centers left behind more than buildings. They left artifacts that illuminate beliefs, rituals, and social structures. In one excavation, fragments of painted tiles, stained glass, and carved stone reveal the aesthetic tastes and religious devotion of a community long gone. Nearby, mundane objects like combs, jewelry, or writing instruments remind us that everyday life exists alongside these sacred spaces. Together, they create a rich tapestry of human experience, connecting material culture with the emotions and aspirations of people who lived hundreds of years ago. Technology and innovation are central to this period as well. The post-medieval world saw the rise of printing presses, improved navigation tools, and new methods of construction. Archaeological sites often contain remnants of these innovations, a printing press part, navigational instruments, or early machinery that tell us how knowledge and technology spread. These discoveries are not just about objects. They are about understanding the impact of these inventions on society, economy, and culture. Each find reminds us that progress is a journey, built upon curiosity, experimentation, and human effort. Perhaps the most striking revelation of historical archaeology is how connected the world already was. Trade routes spanned continents, empires communicated over oceans, and ideas traveled faster than ever before. Coins minted in one country have been found thousands of miles away. Pottery from Asia has been discovered in European markets. Even a simple clay bottle can tell a story of global exchange, revealing the reach and ambition of the societies that produced it. These connections remind us that human history is not isolated, but deeply interwoven, a network of people, places, and cultures shaping one another across time and space. In the end, historical archaeology does more than uncover artifacts. It brings the past to life. It allows us to imagine the laughter, struggles, and dreams of people who lived centuries ago. It shows us the ingenuity, ambition, and resilience that have shaped human progress. Every brush of soil, every fragment uncovered, every building foundation revealed is a step closer to understanding our shared history. And as we trace these layers of human existence, we are reminded that the past is never truly gone. It is beneath our feet, waiting for us to listen, learn, and appreciate the journey that brought us here. Across continents and oceans, empires rose with ambition and power, leaving behind legacies that shaped the modern world in ways still visible today. From the grand palaces and fortified cities of Europe to the sprawling settlements of Asia and the Americas, the evidence of these empires is etched into the landscape. Historical archaeology reveals these traces, uncovering the ambitions, strategies, and daily realities of civilizations that once sought to dominate the world. Each brick, each artifact, each foundation tells a story of conquest, governance, trade, and culture. In Europe, the expansion of kingdoms during the 16th and 17th centuries reshaped the continent. Cities grew around trade centers and military outposts. Archaeological excavations reveal streets paved with cobblestones, public squares bustling with merchants, and fortifications designed to protect wealth and influence. Coins, ceramics, and personal objects found in these cities allow us to imagine the daily lives of people living under the shadow of expanding empires. They show us what goods were valued, how trade connected regions, and how ordinary citizens navigated the power of kings and councils. Meanwhile, across the seas, empires established colonies that would connect distant lands through trade, culture, and conflict. In India, archaeologists uncover forts, warehouses, and marketplaces built by colonial powers, each structure revealing a blend of local and foreign influence. Imported ceramics, glassware, and metal tools speak to networks that span oceans, while letters, ledgers, and maps reveal the organization of trade, governance, and labor. These sites are more than ruins. They are evidence of global ambition, showing how decisions made in one part of the world could shape lives thousands of miles away. In the Americas, settlements built by European colonizers show a different but equally complex picture. Excavations in old towns reveal foundations of homes, wells, and civic buildings, as well as objects left behind: plates, toys, utensils, and clothing fragments. Each find is a snapshot of life during the age of exploration and conquest. But it is not only about the colonizers. Indigenous communities adapted, resisted, and sometimes merged with these new influences. Archaeology captures these interactions, revealing cultural exchanges, conflicts, and the resilience of people navigating sudden and dramatic changes. The military aspect of empires is also clear through archaeological studies. Forts, battlements, and defensive walls stand as silent witnesses to centuries of conflict and power struggles. Excavated weapons, armor fragments, and cannonballs tell stories of battles fought, strategies devised, and lives lost. Even the ruins of destroyed cities convey the scale of ambition and the consequences of territorial conquest. By studying these remnants, we gain insight not only into military technology, but also into the human cost of empire. The families displaced, the workers conscripted, and the communities forever altered. Trade and commerce were the lifeblood of these empires, and archaeology provides remarkable evidence of their complexity. Ports reveal warehouses stacked with goods from distant lands, spices from the East, silver from the Americas, textiles from Europe. Archaeologists uncover shipping ledgers, scales, and weights that illustrate the precision and reach of these networks. Markets, both urban and rural, provide insight into daily life, from what people ate to how they celebrated festivals or conducted business. Through these discoveries, we understand how empires function not just as political entities, but as intricate systems of human connection, logistics, and aspiration. Architecture and urban planning also leave a vivid record. Cities were designed not only for function, but to display power and culture. Grand palaces, cathedrals, and government buildings were symbols of authority and vision. Archaeological excavations of these sites reveal the materials, techniques, and labor behind monumental construction. In some locations, streets and buildings align with ancient traditions, while in others, they reflect foreign influences introduced through colonization or conquest. These structures are more than stone and mortar. They are physical expressions of ambition, identity, and societal values. Cultural life is equally important in understanding empires. Objects of art, religious artifacts, musical instruments, and books provide a glimpse into beliefs, tastes, and daily rituals of people who lived centuries ago. Archaeology uncovers not only the objects themselves, but the spaces where they were used: a temple, a library, a family home. These discoveries highlight the ways in which empires influenced not just politics and trade, but the intellectual, spiritual, and emotional lives of their populations. They reveal a human story behind the grand narratives of conquest and power. The reach of empires also reminds us how interconnected the world was becoming. Goods, ideas, and people traveled vast distances. Coins minted in one country appear thousands of miles away. Imported goods appear in distant marketplaces. Even simple household items, once considered ordinary, now serve as evidence of global networks that linked continents, cultures, and societies. These artifacts tell us that empires were not isolated forces. They were engines of connection, communication, and cultural exchange. Through all of these discoveries, historical archaeology allows us to witness the ambition, creativity, and resilience of human societies. It shows us how empires expanded, adapted, and sometimes collapsed, leaving behind material and cultural legacies that continue to influence our world. Every brick, coin, and fragment carries a story of people striving to organize, to innovate, and to leave a mark. By examining these remnants, we are reminded that history is not distant or abstract. It is a living record of human experience, waiting to be understood, appreciated, and learned from. Empires may rise and fall, but their stories endure. Through archaeology, we uncover these stories, piece by piece, revealing a world of ambition, connection, and transformation. And as we study these traces, we are challenged to reflect on the choices, achievements, and consequences of human power, and how they continue to shape the lives of people today. Across the world, the period of colonial expansion left a mark that went far beyond the maps and political boundaries we read about in history books. Historical archaeology allows us to see the physical traces of this era, the buildings, tools, personal objects, and urban layouts that reveal how colonial powers established control and how local communities responded, adapted, and survived. These sites are not just remnants of foreign ambition. They are windows into the daily lives, struggles, and resilience of people who live at the crossroads of cultures. In many colonial settlements, forts and warehouses stand as silent witnesses to centuries of trade and governance. The walls, often made from stone or brick, were built not only to protect wealth, but also to project authority. Inside these structures, archaeologists uncover objects that tell the story of administration and commerce. Coins from distant lands, ledgers recording trade agreements, and imported goods such as ceramics, glassware, and textiles. Each artifact reveals how colonies were hubs of exchange, where local resources met foreign demand, and where local communities became part of a global network. Homes and neighborhoods reveal an equally compelling story. Foundations of houses, cooking areas, wells, and garden plots offer insights into daily routines, family life, and social organization. Excavations in colonial towns often uncover fragments of pottery, jewelry, utensils, and clothing, providing a detailed view of ordinary life. These objects remind us that history is not only about rulers or military campaigns. It is about the people whose lives were shaped by empire, the parents who raised children, the laborers who worked long hours, and the artisans who crafted tools and goods for survival. Religious and educational buildings also shed light on colonial interactions. Missionaries established churches, schools, and convents in many colonies, aiming to convert, educate, and influence local populations. Archaeological finds such as stained glass fragments, carved stone, manuscripts, and personal devotional items reveal the spiritual and intellectual life of these communities. At the same time, local customs, crafts, and cultural expressions persisted, often blending with introduced practices to create unique hybrid traditions. These discoveries show that colonial encounters were not one-sided. They were complex interactions that reshaped societies in subtle and lasting ways. Labor and industry played a central role in the colonial experience, and archaeology brings these stories into sharp focus. Mines, plantations, and workshops reveal the physical demands placed on workers, whether they were enslaved, indentured, or free. Tools, machinery, and infrastructure remnants illustrate the scale of labor required to extract resources, produce goods, and maintain colonial economies. At the same time, archaeologists uncover evidence of adaptation and resistance. Hidden living quarters, carefully preserved objects, and modifications of workspaces that reveal how people navigated these demanding conditions and preserved aspects of their culture and identity. Trade networks extended far beyond individual colonies. Archaeological finds often show goods moving across continents. Silver mined in South America, reaching ports in Europe. Spices from Asia appearing in colonial markets in Africa, and manufactured goods from Europe making their way into the Americas. Even everyday items, such as bottles, beads, or cooking utensils, can illustrate connections that span thousands of miles. Each object serves as a reminder that colonies were not isolated. They were nodes in a complex web of global exchange, and people living within them were constantly engaging with a world far larger than their immediate surroundings. The impact of colonial architecture on urban planning is equally fascinating. Streets, marketplaces, and civic buildings were often designed to reflect European models of organization and control, yet they also adapted to local geography, climate, and cultural practices. Archaeologists studying these patterns uncover evidence of how cities functioned as centers of power, commerce, and community life. Public squares, bridges, and roads not only facilitated trade and movement, but also reflected the authority and vision of those who built them. At the same time, informal neighborhoods and local markets reveal the ingenuity and resilience of ordinary people who created spaces to maintain their traditions, conduct business, and sustain their communities. Colonial encounters also provide insight into social hierarchies and cultural exchange. Archaeology reveals how class, ethnicity, and occupation influenced daily life. Luxury items, imported goods, and elaborate housing indicate wealth and status, while simpler objects reflect the realities of the majority population. At the same time, the blending of local and foreign customs, whether in cooking, clothing, or religious practice, illustrates the dynamic ways people adapted to changing circumstances. These discoveries remind us that history is not a single narrative, but a complex web of experiences, choices, and adaptations. Historical archaeology ultimately allows us to see colonial history not only as a story of power and exploitation, but also as a story of human resilience and connection. Each artifact, each building foundation, each layer of soil tells us something about how communities survived, adapted, and sometimes thrived despite immense challenges. By uncovering these physical traces, we gain a richer understanding of the social, economic, and cultural forces that shape the world we live in today. As we examine the remnants of colonial settlements, we are reminded that history is tangible and immediate. The tools, coins, homes, and workshops of the past are not just objects. They are stories frozen in time, waiting to be understood. Through them, we connect with the people who came before us, see the consequences of empire, and witness the enduring human spirit. Historical archaeology reveals that even in the shadows of power and conquest, ordinary lives left extraordinary marks, echoing across centuries and continents. By the late 18th century, the world had entered a new era. The Industrial Revolution was not just a shift in production. It was a transformation of society, culture, and daily life. Historical archaeology allows us to uncover this transformation, revealing the physical traces of an age when human ambition and ingenuity reshaped the environment, the economy, and the very way people lived. The remnants of factories, workshops, mines, and machinery tell a story of progress and struggle, innovation and sacrifice that is both tangible and deeply human. Across Europe, archaeologists uncover skeletons of early factories, brick buildings with massive chimneys, iron frameworks, and evidence of machinery that once powered looms, presses, and engines. These industrial sites were hubs of activity, where men, women, and children worked long hours to meet the demands of a rapidly changing world. Tools, gears, and parts of machinery discovered during excavations illustrate the complexity of these operations, showing how mechanical innovation allowed societies to produce goods on an unprecedented scale. Each artifact, from a worker's shoe to a fragment of a spinning wheel, is a glimpse into the lives of those who powered industrial progress. Coal mines and ironworks provide another layer of insight into this period. Excavations reveal the harsh conditions faced by laborers who dug deep into the earth, extracting the fuel and materials that fuel machines and cities alike. Miners' tools, lamps, and safety equipment, often buried and forgotten for centuries, tell a story of endurance and human resilience. Archaeologists also uncover evidence of worker communities, small houses, shared spaces, and communal facilities that illustrate how families and neighbors created networks of support in an environment defined by long hours, physical danger, and economic pressure. Industrial archaeology also shows the impact of technological innovation on society. Early steam engines, textile machines, and mechanical presses transformed not only production but daily life. By examining remnants of these devices, researchers can trace the spread of knowledge, craftsmanship, and engineering. They reveal how societies adapted to new technologies, restructured labor, and reimagined urban spaces to accommodate factories, railways, and warehouses. The layout of industrial towns, often revealed through archaeological mapping, shows how technology shaped settlement patterns, commerce, and social organization. Trade and transportation were central to industrialization, and archaeology uncovers how these networks connected regions and continents. Ports, canals, and railways were built to move raw materials and finished goods efficiently. Archaeologists study warehouses, docks, and shipping equipment to understand how products, from textiles and metals, travel from factory to consumer. Even small finds, like crates, barrels, or shipping labels, illustrate the scale and complexity of industrial commerce. These objects reveal the global nature of industry, showing that the revolution was not confined to a single city or nation, but reshaped the world. The human experience of industrialization is also captured in everyday objects. Excavations often reveal clothing, cooking utensils, and personal items that belong to workers and their families. These finds offer a glimpse into the routines, challenges, and aspirations of ordinary people. Children who labored in textile mills, families living near smelting plants, and artisans adapting to mechanized production all left traces of their lives. By studying these objects, archaeologists piece together a vivid picture of the social and cultural realities of industrial communities. Environmental transformation is another story told through historical archaeology. Factories, mines, and urban expansion reshaped rivers, forests, and landscapes. Archaeologists uncover evidence of canals dug for transport, water wheels installed to power mills, and slag heaps created for metal production. These traces demonstrate how humans modified their environment to meet economic needs, often at great ecological cost. The remnants of polluted rivers, abandoned quarries, and industrial waste sites remind us that the revolution's progress came with consequences that continue to resonate today. The archaeology of the Industrial Revolution also reveals patterns of adaptation and resilience. Workers modified tools, homes, and workshops to suit their needs, creating solutions within the limitations imposed by industry. Communal spaces, gardens, and informal networks show how people sought balance between labor demands and human needs. These discoveries remind us that history is not only about technological achievements or economic growth. It is about the people who lived through change, who endured hardship, and who shaped their own experiences within the larger currents of history. Perhaps the most remarkable aspect of industrial archaeology is how it bridges the past and present. Sites once abandoned, machinery long silent, and homes long forgotten all speak to the continuity of human innovation. Archaeological studies help us understand the origins of modern urban life, labor structures, and technological systems. They illuminate the roots of economic and social patterns that continue to shape our world. By studying the remnants of this transformative period, we gain insight into both human potential and the cost of progress. In the end, the Industrial Revolution is more than a story of machines and factories. It is a story of ambition, ingenuity, and endurance. It is a story of communities adapting, surviving, and shaping a new world. Historical archaeology allows us to see the revolution not just as a chapter in history books, but as a living record of human experience, innovation, and resilience. Every tool, every machine, every foundation uncovered connects us to the people who powered a transformation that continues to define the modern world. Beneath the grand walls of forts, the towering chimneys of factories and foundations of colonial cities, lie the traces of ordinary lives, lives that history often overlooks. Historical archaeology allows us to uncover these stories, giving voice to the people whose experiences shape the world in ways both subtle and profound. From merchants and artisans to laborers and children, each artifact we uncover tells a story of human endurance, creativity, and adaptation. These remnants remind us that history is not only about empires, wars, or industrial achievements. It is about the people who lived, struggled, and thrived within these changing landscapes. In the marketplaces of post-medieval cities, archaeologists uncover coins, tools, and everyday objects that reveal the rhythms of daily life. A fragment of pottery, a worn shoe, or a simple cooking implement can tell us about diet, fashion, and trade. These finds offer a glimpse into routines that were once mundane yet vital. Preparing meals, crafting goods, negotiating sales, and interacting with neighbors. Even the smallest object carries meaning, connecting us to people who used it centuries ago. We begin to see not just their work, but their values, priorities, and the small moments that define their lives. Artisans and craftsmen leave particularly rich evidence of human ingenuity. Excavations of workshops and studios reveal tools, unfinished products, and materials that showcase skill and creativity. A metalworker's hammer, a potter's wheel, or the remnants of carved, which tells us about the techniques and knowledge passed from one generation to the next. These objects demonstrate not only technical expertise, but also the ways people adapted to changing economies, demands, and technologies. They remind us that behind every empire or industrial achievement are countless hands shaping the world, often without recognition. Laborers and workers, too, leave a profound mark, even in spaces that were often overlooked. Excavated miners' tools, textile implements, and factory remnants speak of long hours, physical strain, and resilience. In coal mines, for example, lamps, picks, and boots reveal the dangers workers face daily, while their homes and communal areas reflect how families created networks of support amidst harsh conditions. Archaeology captures both the hardship and the ingenuity of those who endured demanding environments, showing how people adapted to survive and protect their communities. Children and women, whose stories are often less visible, also emerge through archaeological finds. Toys, fragments of clothing, domestic tools, and personal items reveal the presence and roles of young people and women in these societies. They remind us that human experience is multidimensional. Life was not only shaped by labor or trade, but by play, care, education, and the management of households. These discoveries provide a richer, more inclusive understanding of past communities, highlighting the contributions of those whose work and creativity often went undocumented in written records. Food, a universal element of life, tells stories of culture, adaptation, and interaction. Archaeologists study animal bones, seeds, and cooking utensils to understand what people ate, how diets changed with trade, and how communities adapted to local environments. In colonial settlements, for example, imported foods reveal connections to distant continents, while locally cultivated crops show resilience and adaptation. Even fragmented pottery and cooking vessels tell us about social customs, family meals, and the ways people shared resources. These insights bring the past to life, offering sensory glimpses into lives long gone. Communities reveal themselves in the organization of living spaces and urban design. Streets, homes, gardens, and public spaces provide evidence of social hierarchy, community planning, and cultural priorities. Archaeologists can trace how neighborhoods were divided by occupation, class, or ethnicity, and how informal networks and shared spaces allowed people to maintain connections and traditions. These spatial patterns tell a story of human creativity, negotiation, and the ways people created meaning in their everyday environments. Even conflict and struggle leave traces that speak to human resilience. Battle sites, fortification, and evidence of labor exploitation reveal the challenges people faced under empires, colonial powers, and industrial authorities. Yet within these challenging contexts, archaeology uncovers signs of adaptation and resistance. Hidden living spaces, repurposed tools, and personal objects preserved as symbols of identity. These discoveries remind us that human life persisted, evolved, and found ways to flourish even in difficult circumstances. Perhaps the most compelling aspect of human-centered archaeology is how it connects us to our shared humanity. By studying personal objects, homes, tools, and communal spaces, we begin to understand decisions, values, and emotions of people who lived centuries before us. Each artifact is a tangible link across time, bridging the gap between our modern experience and the lives of those who built, worked, and dreamed in the past. Through these discoveries, history becomes not a series of distant events, but a living, relatable story of ordinary people shaping the world around them. Historical archaeology reminds us that progress, power, and innovation are inseparable from the human experiences that make them possible. Empires expanded, colonies grew, and industries transformed societies. But these forces only existed because of the people who lived within them. Artisans, merchants, laborers, women, and children all left traces that help us reconstruct their lives, understand their choices, and appreciate their resilience. Every coin, every tool, every fragment is evidence of human presence that continues to echo across time. By uncovering these remnants, we gain more than knowledge. We gain perspective. We see the universality of human effort, the persistence of creativity, and the endurance of communities. The past is not distant or abstract. It is alive, embedded in the objects and spaces around us. Through archaeology, we connect with the people who came before us, learning not only about history but about ourselves and how our present and future are shaped by those who lived, struggled, and dreamed long before us. As we examine the layers of history unearthed through archaeology, a clear pattern emerges. Empires rose and fell, colonies expanded and contracted, and industries transformed societies. Yet beyond the monuments, artifacts, and ruins lies a deeper story, a story of human ambition, resilience, and ingenuity. Historical archaeology does more than uncover objects. It uncovers lessons, offering insight into how humans have faced challenges, seized opportunities, and shaped the world. By studying these traces of the past, we gain perspective not only on who we were, but on who we might become. In the foundations of ancient forts and colonial settlements, we see evidence of planning, innovation, and foresight. Cities were designed with strategy, trade networks were carefully maintained, and systems of governance were established to manage complex societies. Archaeology reveals that progress is rarely accidental. It is deliberate, built through problem-solving, creativity, and collective effort. These lessons resonate today, reminding us that human achievement is rooted in vision, persistence, and adaptability. At the same time, historical archaeology exposes the consequences of ambition when it is pursued without balance or consideration. The rise of empires often brought conflict, displacement, and exploitation. Colonial expansion disrupted local communities and reshaped ecosystems. Industrial growth transformed landscapes, but often at the cost of human health and social inequality. By examining these outcomes, we are reminded that progress is not without responsibility. Artifacts, ruins, and remnants are tangible proof that decisions made centuries ago reverberate across generations. They teach us that human power carries weight and consequence, and that understanding history is essential to shaping a more thoughtful future. Trade networks, technological innovations, and urban development all show the potential of human connection. Archaeology uncovers evidence of global exchange, goods traveling thousands of miles, ideas spreading across oceans, and communities interacting across cultural boundaries. These discoveries demonstrate that collaboration and exchange have always been central to human advancement. The past shows us that progress is amplified when societies are connected, when knowledge is shared, and when people are willing to learn from one another. It is a reminder that despite differences in culture, language, or geography, human ingenuity thrives in networks of interaction. At the heart of these lessons are the lives of ordinary people. Laborers, artisans, traders, and families built the foundations of empires, sustained industries, and preserved culture. Archaeological discoveries reveal their resilience, creativity, and adaptability. Everyday objects, from cooking pots to tools, toys to personal ornaments, tell us that history is lived experience, not just grand narratives. By understanding their lives, we recognize the role of persistence, resourcefulness, and courage in shaping societies. These insights encourage us to value human effort and to see potential in the work of individuals and communities today. The environmental changes of the past offer equally important lessons. Archaeological sites show how human activity altered landscapes. Rivers were redirected, forests cleared, and land reshaped for agriculture, settlement, or industry. Some of these changes had unintended consequences, affecting ecosystems and human well-being. By studying these patterns, we gain awareness of the delicate balance between development and sustainability. The past teaches us that progress must consider not only immediate gains but long-term effects, guiding us toward solutions that harmonize human needs with the environment. History also teaches the value of adaptation. Empires crumbled when they failed to adjust to new circumstances. Colonies endure by innovating or negotiating new systems. Industrial communities thrive when people found ways to cope with labor demands and technological change. Archaeology captures these adaptations in homes, tools, and urban layouts, revealing how human beings responded to challenges creatively and strategically. In our rapidly changing world, these lessons remind us that flexibility, problem-solving, and resilience are not new skills. They are timeless human traits that have enabled survival and growth throughout history. Perhaps the most inspiring lesson is the continuity of human ambition and vision. Across centuries, despite hardship, conflict, or uncertainty, people built, traded, innovated, and dreamed. Archaeological discoveries show that progress is a collective effort, a mosaic of small acts and large achievements. Every brick, tool, and artifact represents intention, effort, and creativity. This continuity connects us to our ancestors and challenges us to consider what legacy we will leave for future generations. Finally, historical archaeology reminds us that understanding the past is a pathway to insight, empathy, and responsibility. By seeing the successes and failures of those who came before us, we learn to make informed choices, to value human effort, and to respect the interconnectedness of societies and environments. Every excavation, every artifact, every reconstructed site is an invitation to reflect on our role in the ongoing story of humanity. Through the study of empires, colonies, and industrial societies, we are not only uncovering objects, we are uncovering wisdom. Lessons of resilience, innovation, cooperation, and responsibility emerge from the soil and the ruins. They encourage us to navigate our present with awareness, to act with foresight, and to build a future that honors the struggles, creativity, and achievements of the past. Historical archaeology shows us that the past is not only a record, it is a guide, a teacher, and a source of inspiration, inviting us to understand where we come from and to imagine where we can go. As the dust of centuries settles and we step back from the ruins, the question remains, what do these fragments, these artifacts, these remnants of human life truly tell us? They tell a story far greater than empires or industries, far greater than conquest or innovation. They tell the story of U.S., of human ambition, resilience, and creativity stretching across time. Every brick unearthed, every coin discovered, every tool or fragment preserved in the soil whispers a message from the past, reminding us that the choices, dreams, and struggles of those who came before continue to shape the world we inhabit today. We are connected to history not just by knowledge, but by the living echoes of human experience. The lessons are clear. Progress demands responsibility, ingenuity is born of necessity, and even ordinary lives carry extraordinary impact. The streets, workshops, marketplaces, and homes buried beneath our feet are more than relics. They are proof that humanity has always been capable of greatness, adaptation, and transformation. And as we peer into this past, we are challenged to ask ourselves, what legacy will we leave for those who come after us? Will we learn from the triumphs and failures, the creativity and resilience, or will we repeat the mistakes buried beneath the soil? The answers lie not in the past alone, but in how we carry its lessons forward. History is never finished. It lives, breathes, and waits for those willing to listen, to explore, and to act. The past is spoken. The question is, will we answer?